Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I would like first to start by thanking you for your participation and interest in the slash ring. I hope you find this webinar very interesting. I'm sure you will find a lot of information that our partner Robert Trenchard will share with you. I know we have a lot of loyal followers in the Agriplastics community, but for those that you might be new to our platform and community, I would like to introduce briefly the Armando Alvarez Group. Our company is a 100% private company. The Armando Alvarez Group is formed of 17 companies. And apart from the agricultural plastic films, the Armando Alvarez works in different sectors like the geosynthetics, forest, wood, biomass, logistics, and hotels. In the Armando Alvarez Group, we take very seriously the economic, circular economy and sustainable solutions. So this is why one of the reasons why the relationship and partnership with Solar Shrink started for the EMEA countries. The Solar Shrink, it's a new generation of solutions for the agriculture, and the main purpose of the Solar Shrink is enhancing crop productivity at the same time that we are minimizing the environmental impact. As I said, I'm sure you all know our Agriplastics community, but just a little bit of reminder that in the webpage, agriplasticcommunity.com, it's an online platform belonging to the Armando Alvarez Group, where we periodically post valuable content for farmers and all related to agriculture. I'm sure we'll find a lot of interesting topics. And apart from webinars, we also have a podcast that you can find in Spotify and you can subscribe. We also have a YouTube channel where you can find testimonials from farmers telling their experience. We have different trends commenting in the videos and lots of interesting information. And if you don't want to skip any of the events we are organizing, you can subscribe to our e-newsletter so you can keep up with all the upcoming events. Now, since the main reason why we are here together is to listen to Robert Trenchard, please let me introduce Robert, who is the founding persons of the Solar Shrink Company based in Australia. Robert, in his family, they started the business of manufacturing covers over 50 years ago. And Robert started the plastic manufacturer while he was at university in 2001 in the packaging sector. 10 years later he moved to the agricultural plastic mulch films, and this led to the development of the Solar Shrink, which is now produced under a license. I would like to remind you, just before Robert starts his presentation, that you can be sending questions during the presentation using the QA button that you will find at the bottom of your screen. Also, you can use the chat to share your ideas. And just a reminder that at the end of the presentation, you will receive in your email link with the recorded presentation and also our contact data in case you would like to send us questions or any concern you might have about Solar Shrink. So, Robert, we are excited and looking forward to listening to your presentation.
All right. Thank you very much for that introduction, Maribel, and welcome to everyone that's joined in from across the world. As Maribel said, my name is Rob Trenchard. I am the inventor of Solar Shrink Mulch Film and the brand manager for the product globally. And I'm very excited to be joining you today to tell you a little bit about the product, some of the problems that we're trying to solve with the product. And yeah, I look forward to telling you just about how the product works. I'll run through a few things before we start and then get stuck into it. So Solar Shrink was designed in Australia for Australian conditions, and that means that it's facing some of the toughest growing conditions in the world. We have a very high UV level, ultraviolet light level in Australia. And because of that, films are subject to breakdown. But because it works in Australia, it'll work just about anywhere else in the world. So diving into it, we're going to start off by looking at some of the problems that exist with mulch films in the market at the moment. This is basically the reason why we created Solar Shrink, and I then go on to tell you about how Solar Shrink performs and how it goes about solving some of those problems. And of course, by solving those problems, it actually ends up being a more environmentally sustainable product and environmentally friendly. I'll then go on to talk about how the product is performing in other countries with a few testimonials and products that we're going to develop before summing up and moving on to answer any questions that you may have about the product or its performance or our relationship with Armando Alvarez, which we're very excited about. So let's dive in and have a look at some of the problems with conventional mulch films. Well, I think that's we all recognize in the agricultural sector that agriculture does have a problem with plastic. It's very broadly used, and mulch film is a very, very visible product when it comes to the disposal, because it is a hard product to recycle. And so farmers need to find ways to reduce the amount of plastic that's being used, but to do so in a way that doesn't damage the crop, doesn't damage the farming practice. And that's where we feel Solar Shrink comes into it. Now, a lot of the problems come because governments around the world are trying to legislate to make sure that mulch films are thicker, that they're thick enough and strong enough that they can be lifted from the soil at the end of the season. And because of this, it means that there's more plastic being used, but also some manufacturers are being forced to use recycled material or to use additives going into the film that weaken it. And ultimately, it makes the product very thick, very difficult to manage. And of course, that makes the product more expensive as well, because there's more plastic being used. It costs more. It costs more to manufacture. It costs more to ship to farmers. The product doesn't perform as well, and there's more to get rid of at the end of the day. The other problem that farmers find when it comes to having this thick plastic is that when it's exposed to sunlight, the product actually expands. As many things do, when exposed to heat and light, they expand and the product can become loose on the bed. And that loose plastic can flap up and down, it can pump heat out of the soil, it damages the plants, and ultimately reduces the yield that farmers are looking to get out of their crop. And then, of course, at the end of the season, there's a lot of plastic left over and a lot of plastic to dispose of. Because it's using cheaper materials from some of the other products in the market, the value of that polymer has degraded. It can't be recycled easily and turned into something else. So those are the problems that we were trying to overcome when we created Solar Shrink. And I'd like to go on and tell you just a little bit about the product and its performance and how it goes about solving these problems. So Solar Shrink is a different kind of mulch film, and it is stronger than anything else in the market. It's lighter, and by lighter we mean it's thinner, but it's thinner without losing its technical strength and abilities. It lays tighter to the bed and stays tighter all season long. And once it's on the ground, it's actually smarter in the way that it behaves in promoting your crop's growth. And ultimately, at the end of the season, there's less of it to dispose of, and so it's more environmentally friendly. It's a greener product. Now, we say that Solar Shrink is stronger, and as I said before, it's thinner as well. But just to highlight just how much stronger it is, if you have a look at this graph here, you can see on the left-hand side of that graph is a standard blown film micro in 20 microns thick. This is what's available in the market now commercially, and Solar Shrink on the right-hand side in an 18 micron. And that 18 micron thick piece of plastic is more than 400% stronger than the 25 micron. And this is just an example to show you the kind of strength increase you can get. It'll be different for different crops. Some crops may you be able to use a thinner film, some will use a thicker film. But just to demonstrate how much stronger it is. So there's less plastic used, but as well as that, there's a much better performance because we're able to use better quality polymers. Because we're using less plastic, we can use better polymers, we can use better additives. And that's all factored in to allow the product to still be cost competitive while at the same time performing much better. And it optimizes the entire process, right from the manufacturing side to the shipping side, getting the product to you. The product actually lays better in the field, and I'll tell you a bit about that in a second. And then at the end of the day, it lifts out of the ground easier because it retains that strength and it doesn't degrade. Ultimately, all of this means that the product is able to be laid with conventional machinery. You don't need to make many changes to how the product goes down. And in a second, I'll show you just why we believe the product is so much more efficient. So as I said, the product is 4 to 6 times stronger, depending on the thickness and the product you're up against. It's 400 to 600% stronger than products in the market at the moment. And because it's thinner, we can put more meters on the roll. And that means that as a farmer, you're not having to stop the tractor as often. The tractor isn't idling. You're not paying your labor and your wages because you're able to run the tractor for longer. And we've actually had situations where we've customized the mulch film rolls to match the length of the drip irrigation rolls so that you can be sure they're both running at the same time and changing at the same time. And that's all there just to save you money and time when you're applying it. When it comes to actually putting the product on the ground, we say it can go up to 10% faster, but we've actually found situations where it can go significantly more than that, where people have been laying the plastic on the ground at about 5 kilometers an hour. They've been able to take it up to 9 kilometers an hour when putting it onto the ground. And the reason that it can do that is that the product actually shrinks when exposed to sunlight. And some of you may have seen this in the promotional material, but that is Solar Shrink mounted in a frame and exposed to the sun here in Australia. And that was on a day in the middle of winter where it was about 14 degrees Celsius outside. And you can see just how quickly it shrinks. And that means that when you're applying the product to the bed, you can take the brake off the back of your tractor. You're not having to stretch it over the bed really tightly. You roll it out, cover the sides, and let the sun do the work. Don't force the tractor to do the work. So it helps when applying the product to the bed, but more than that, it actually, having a tight bed is so very important. Here we can see a row of standard mulch film that's been applied loosely, and next to it, a row of Solar Shrink that was applied at the same time on the same mulch layer. Now, that product on the right is going to need to be maintained. The farmer's going to have to come back and shovel dirt on it. In high winds, it can actually lift out of the bed. But more than that, that loose plastic flapping up and down can actually damage seedlings. It can rub against the side of the stem and allow disease in. In some cases, it can come up high enough to actually crush the seedling completely and destroy it. But more than that, that flapping action pumps heat and moisture out of the soil. You want to retain as much heat in the soil to give the crop the best growing environment. By moving up and down, it acts like a pump and removes that heat from under the plastic. It also pumps moisture from out of the soil. So you're going to need to pump more water to your plant because it's being evaporated. For the plant itself, having that warm, moist environment around the seedling causes it to close the stomata on its leaves. And that means it's actually not drawing moisture out of the ground. It's not drawing nutrients up to grow, and it slows the growth rate of the plant. So having a tight plastic gives you a much better growing environment for the crop. And some of the benefits of that is that the moisture is retained in the soil. It's not dehydrated, not dehydrating the plant. It's not evaporating. It's giving a much better growing environment. You're getting that earlier growth that you want from it by having the heat retained in the soil and not pumped out. And that obviously lends itself to having a much longer growing season. You've got improved control of your fertigation systems. You know that whatever you pump into the soil is what the plant's absorbing. You're not having to pump extra fertilizer in with your water as that moisture is evaporated out. And it lowers the salinity of the soil because you have that control over what's going in. Because it's not damaging seedlings, you're getting reduced seedling damage, and that obviously lends itself to having an even plant size throughout your field, and ultimately a higher yield over the entire season. And the product is working. We've had it running here in Australia since 2015-16. It now has a market share of about 60 to 70% in Australia. We're also supplying the product into North and South America, and it's being used on tens of thousands of hectares and being used consistently, and farmers are switching to it to overcome the problems that they've faced with conventional mulch films. Now, of course, we've seen that Solar Shrink now is a stronger product. It is a much thinner product. It has a better performance in the field. It's faster to lay. It gives a better growing environment and a higher yield for your crops. And at the end of the season, it's actually easier to pick up from the field. A lot of mulch films need to be picked up by hand. They aren't strong enough to be retrieved by machine. With Solar Shrink, because it has that strength at the start of the season, because we're adding UV stabilizers and very high quality black master batches, the film isn't degrading. So at the end of the season, it retains that strength that it had at the start. And that means that it picks up out of the ground easier and faster. And because it has a very, very smooth surface, it actually picks up cleaner as well with less dirt attached to it. Ultimately, that means less plastic to dispose of, whether that's going to landfill or whether it's being buried or whether it's being recycled. But even if you aren't picking it up by machine, the product is strong enough to be lifted by hand. And this is a field that was actually planted in the Huelva region of Spain and was down for 8 months. I believe this was, in fact, an 18 micron sheet of Solar Shrink that was laid, and you can see it being lifted there by hand without having to clean the crop up or even uncover the edges. It's being pulled out of the soil. And ultimately, it means less plastic, which means the product is more environmentally friendly and much more sustainable. So that's the topic I'd like to hit on next. So being thinner, being stronger, it means that there's less weight of plastic being disposed, but it's not just the plastic that we need to take into account. We need to have a look at the complete life cycle analysis of the product. So because we're making less plastic from the manufacturing side, there's less electricity being used to produce the product. From the transport side, there were fewer rolls being shipped to you. There is less emissions when it comes to laying it with a tractor, and fewer emissions when it comes to picking up the plastic and disposing of it at the end. In the field, there's less electricity being used to pump the water to the plant. There's less water being pumped to the plant as well, and less fertilizer being introduced to the soil at the same time. For the plants, there's less disease, there's lower maintenance costs, and ultimately you're getting a better yield and a better quality product for the same inputs you would have used. And as I said, it's being used very broadly in Australia. It's being used very broadly in the USA. And from our experience in the USA, we can see just what an effect it has. So per 100 hectares of product that switched to using Solar Shrink, there was 5,600 kilograms less plastic material put into the field. That's just the plastic portion that was landfilled. So the amount of reduction of product that was sent to landfill would be, in fact, higher than that, because there's the leaf matter and the plant matter that's attached to it when these products are lifted by hand, and they aren't strong enough to be lifted in one piece. Because we're shipping fewer cores, fewer rolls, there's fewer cardboard cores in the middle of those rolls as well. And we were actually able to save 1.5 tons of that plastic, that paper waste that wasn't sent to landfill or needed to be disposed of. When it comes to the product in the field, there was 69,685 pounds less carbon dioxide emitted. So you can divide that by about 2. So let's say 30,000 kilograms less CO2 that were emitted. And that's because there were 80 hours less tractor hours when it came to laying the film, because they were able to lay it at that 9-kilometer rate versus 5 kilometers. That, along with that, comes the savings from the tractor operators and the fuel and the farmer's time. Because we had longer rolls, there were 27 less stops to change rolls, and that saved 27 hours of stops per 100 hectares that were saved. And ultimately, for the farmer, that led to 10,000 euros in operating cost reductions, with 1,100 euros from transport and landfill fees, 7,700 because of increased tractor speeds, and 1,280 because of reduced roll changes. So the product is working, and it's been working very well around the world, and we're excited to get it into this EMEA market with Armando Alvarez. When we introduced it to the USA, we actually put it out in the fields of the University of Arizona's Yuma Agricultural Center. And the farm manager there, Jesus Pereira, said that in his 37 years of using plastic mulch films, this is the best plastic mulch he's ever used. And we're getting testimonials like this all the time. But what I think is the best testimonial for Solar Shrink is that more and more farmers are using it. More and more farmers have used it, and they come back again and again every season because it does solve problems for them. So we're very excited to get it rolling out. Now, I know that some of the viewers that we have watching this webinar will be strawberry growers, for example, and they may be using a fumigant. So I'd like to show you just a little bit about the Solar Shrink TIF that we've developed for the USA market. In California especially, the government is very strict about the level of transmission that barrier films have. And when it comes to Solar Shrink TIF, we found that at 20 microns, compared to products that are 35 to 40 microns, Solar Shrink in a 20 micron is the best performing barrier film available in the market. And it has the additional benefits that it is thinner, there's less plastic used, the additional benefits that it's stronger than any of the other products available, but at the same time has the best barrier properties as well. Now, I know that this product isn't available from Armando Alvarez yet, but it is in development and it'll be rolling out very, very soon. But I just thought I'd share that with you if you had interest in it. So coming around to conclusions, we've seen that Solar Shrink is thinner than anything else available in the market. It's stronger than any other product available in the market. It's easier to use, easier to apply to the bed. It lasts better than anything else, and it works better all season long, performing better in the field and giving higher yields to the farmer with fewer inputs. It's easier to recover because it retains that strength all season long, right to the end. And because the product hasn't degraded, it's much more likely to be recycled and given a second life. So with that, I'll say thank you very much for your attention, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have about the product or its performance or availability. Please feel free to ask.
Wow, thank you very much, Robert, for the excellent presentation and for the clearness how you presented many advantages. I think this raised lots of interest as well in from our participants, and thank you very much for the participation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I already see we have some questions. So Robert, I will read them out loud for you, and you share with us your answer, okay? So we have the first question from James. Hello, James. It's what is the thickness of the solar shrink?
So solar shrink is it really depends on the environment and the conditions to which it's being applied. And the product is customized from region to region. It can be made in any thickness that you want, depending on the application that you have. And it's really designed to be as thin as possible to perform the function that you require. If you're using it with strawberries, for example, and it's going down for multiple seasons, you would have a thicker film while it still retains that strength. But it can go significantly lower than anything else in the market at the moment and still work very well. But it is customizable depending on the conditions.
And that's a very important thing because this also means more competitiveness when it is much thinner than the other plastics. So it's a very good point.
Absolutely.
We also have another question from other attendant that is asking if the solar shrink can be installed inside a greenhouse.
Yes, it absolutely can. It absolutely can, because there is sunlight that's coming down to the crop. Obviously, you need that. It's the sunlight that activates the product and causes it to shrink tight to the bed, and it works very well. We're seeing it being used in greenhouses in every market that we're working in, and it's working very well.
Good. This is very good news. Also, we have another participant, Martin Geyer. I don't know if I'm pronouncing well your name. Thank you, Martin, for the questions. He's asking about the plastic composition.
So it uses standard polymers that are used in many other products, but in a very specific formulation that we've developed to enable it to have the performance properties that it does have. So there's nothing in it that is very strange, if I can say that. It's similar compositions to other products in the market, but it's the patented process that we've developed which enables it to have its performance capabilities.
I think the concern of Martin is in the sense of the recyclability, because his second question is, can you recycle the film?
You can recycle the film. We have, in fact, done some work over in the USA where we've begun programs to recycle the film. As I said before, because the polymers are of such a good grade and because it's thinner, we're able to use more black. We're able to, or higher quality black master batch, which prevents degradation. We're able to use higher grades of UV stabilizers. That prevents the film from breaking down, so the polymer retains its value for recycling.
Great, very good. Also, we have another question. It says, can it be placed on flat ground or must it always be on a raised bed?
It can be placed on flat ground without a problem, as long as the edges are covered. We do recommend that when putting it on flat ground, you have a furrow into which the edges are placed, so that you do get that really good soil contact with the plastic when it does shrink, which is something you want with any plastic you use whatsoever. So on flat ground, if the edges are buried below ground level, it works best. But yes, it can be placed on high beds and low beds, anywhere you want it.
Good. Lots of questions. This is really raising a lot of interest. I'm very excited and happy for all the questions and for the excellent answers that Robert is clarifying us. So we also have another question from Zia. So he says, that saying it is stronger, more stretchy to shrink, wouldn't it mean it is difficult to dispose of? Less plastic, but due to its strength, can make them hard to dispose? This is here their concern?
No, because it's so much stronger, what that indicates is that the plastic is in fact more likely to be recycled. When disposing of it, you want it to come out of the ground without leaving any particles in the soil. You want it to come up in one single sheet, so that then it can be transported to wherever its next place is, whether that be landfill or whether it be recycling. Having less plastic to dispose of just makes it so much easier.
Good. Thank you. The next questions, actually some of the attendants have the same concern. We will answer both of them, or more than one I'm seeing here. And that participants are asking if they can have a copy of the presentation to explain to their team. Robert, if you allow me, I will answer this question.
Please.
At the end of the presentation, I don't know if it automatically or it will take like one day or something, but for all of you that are registered in the webinar, you will receive an email with the link to the recorded presentation, to the recorded session. Also, you will receive a copy of the presentation and also our contact details in case you have other questions and you would like to get more information. So you will receive it, no worries.
Absolutely.
The other questions is Maruzan is asking, thank you Maruzan for your question, is there any recycled material in the solar shrink? You're not if it's recycled, but if it is recycled material in it.
No, we don't use any recycled material in the plastic. As I said at the start, some manufacturers are being forced to use recycled to reduce cost, but because we're making it thinner, we can retain it as a prime virgin plastic throughout the entire lifespan. We want the product to be strong enough so that it doesn't pollute the fields at the end of the season, so that it is easy to lift up. And once you introduce a recycled polymer to the plastic, it loses that strength and loses that ability to be environmentally friendly.
Good point. We continue with the questions. We have one from Kelvin. He says, hi, my name is Kelvin, editor from Agri-Journalist blog. This product, I believe, will be very useful for African farmers. I also do think so. Is the product available in Africa?
Yes, it is certainly in the trial quantities that we have available from the Armando Alvarez Group. We're very excited to get the product into Africa. Out of interest, I myself am South African originally, so living in Australia, but South African, and I would love to see solar shrink used back in my home continent. So I'm very excited to see it happen. And I encourage you, if you are interested in trying the product or learning more about it, to reach out to your local Armando Alvarez representative who can provide you with that information and organize those trials. So yeah,
exactly.
Let's get it going.
From our side, from the Armando Alvarez Group, Armando Alvarez team, we will make our best to send and have the solar shrink available in all the countries of the EMEA. So please feel free to contact us. We are more than happy to serve you the solar shrink. We continue with the words. We have another question from Zia, and says, considering it is a cost competitive to normal mulch films, how much is it in percentage, more or less?
In terms of price, generally speaking, it is, as I said, when it's cost competitive. Again, I'm not the one to be responsible for pricing, and I don't know which region you would be in. The product is being made in Europe and shipped to different regions. So if you are interested in pricing, the best way to find out what it is to get in touch with your local Armando Alvarez representative. But in general, we find that the product is around about the same price, if not a bit cheaper than what else is available in the market.
Mm-hmm.
But you get all the other benefits that come from it as well.
Yes, lots of savings as well. Not only it is more competitive, but also it poses a lot of savings.
Exactly.
We have more inquiries to share the presentation. You will all receive the recorded webinar and presentation, no worries. More questions from Aaron. Thank you, Aaron, for your question. How does it handle the very hot, dry, extremely humid conditions in northern Australia. You know it very well.
Yeah, I do very well. So the product is used very extensively in the Northern Territory of Australia, or North Queensland, where it is the highest UV levels found anywhere in the world. Some of the hottest conditions, very humid, and it works incredibly well. The bulk of the production that happens in those regions in Australia is melon farming, and just about all the farmers in the north of Australia are using solar shrink as their preferred mulch film.
Good. A lot of experience already. And Talan, we also have another question from Talan, and he's asking, is it any shrinking difference between black color and the transparent product?
The black color will in fact shrink more than the transparent. The transparent film will shrink, but not to the same extent as the black or the other colors that we produce. But it still remains significantly tighter and has all the strength and all the other benefits that come along with it.
Thank you. We have another question from Gordon Oma, and he says, can I get a training on this and use it in Kenya? It will be our pleasure, Gordon. Please, we will get in contact with us, with the Armando Alvarez Group. And since we have also your email address, we will get in contact with you either ways. And we will make sure you receive all the information you need. Thank you. More questions from Titus Gagwaya. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing well the names. He's asking, what are the minimum and maximum length of the rolls and the width? And can you roll out according to customers' request?
Yes, at the moment, with the trial materials that we are producing right now, and that we will have available for trial, we're working with 1.2 meters wide and 1.4 meters wide. And Maribel, if you remind me the length of those, I think it was 1,400 meters.
Yes, currently what we have available 2,450 meters.
Okay, so 2,450 meters long. The product can be made customized to your specifications once we enter into the full scope of running, and the maximum width we can produce to is about 2.2 meters wide, and then there's really no minimum, but below about 900 millimeters, I haven't come across a lot of situations where that's used. But as I said earlier, the product is customized to the environment and the product or the crop that you're growing. So yes.
Everything to fit our customers' request. Also, Christoph Boesner is asking if it is possible to use the film for 2 seasons.
We have had situations where it's used for 2 seasons, depending on the crop type, depending on the conditions that it's in. As long as you take care of the product, that it's not physically damaged by carts or trucks driving over it, there's no reason why it can't be used. Generally, though, we in Australia, it's used for about 9 months as standard. Up to 12 months is fine. Once it gets over that point, any product will start to show some signs of degradation. It's still going to lift out of the ground better than a standard film at over that 1 year mark. But yes, you can use it for multiple cropping cycles, and it is used for multiple cropping cycles already.
Yeah, actually, for strawberry, it is very likely to be used for a couple of seasons, right?
Yes, that's right.
Another question, can you share the presentation? Yes, we will. And how long can it decompose in the soil?
Okay, so solar shrink is not designed to decompose. It's designed to last for a very long time. It's designed to retain its strength. It is that's what makes it work. You know, by having a product that retains its strength throughout the season, it means that you're getting the benefit of the product for the whole season. You're not having to worry about it breaking up too early, and you've got weed pressure and water pressure. and it's designed to pick up easily from the soil and then be disposed of. So we don't recommend leaving it in the soil. We don't recommend, working it into the soil. It's designed to be taken up at the end of your growing cycle.
Exactly. Another question from Bonnie Yaro, who is asking, no impact on beneficial soil microorganisms?
There may be some benefits because of the moisture and heat retention, but it's very similar to what you would find with any other mulch film that's used.
Okay. Another question from El Mehdi Ait Ali. Merhaba, El Mehdi. He says, hi, please, the warranty period that can be guaranteed for Morocco, especially the south, and can it be manufactured in white and black or only in black?
Okay, so I can address the manufacturing side of that. It can be manufactured in black or black white or black silver or clear or thermic brown or thermic green, whatever colors exist in the mulch film market now. Solar Shrink performs the same in any of those colors. In terms of warranty, Maribel, I'll leave that to you because that's an Armando Alvarez question.
Yes, thank you. In mulch films, we don't talk about guarantees, but life expectancy. And we commented that we have mulch films designed to last for one season or for a couple of seasons. So knowing beforehand what the application will be, the product will be designed to last the desired life expectancy, whether it is for one season or multiple seasons. So we will design according to it, okay? Another one, when does it stop shrinking, from Aaron Lucas?
So that's a really interesting question, Aaron. In fact, the product will shrink. It's not a very strong shrinking force. In fact, it's but not a weak shrinking force either. It will shrink until it's tight. But then even if you were to water your beds, for example, and the bed collapses, the product will then start to shrink again until it's tight. If you have a farm worker that steps on the plastic and collapses that bed, it'll shrink until it's tight, but it won't shrink enough to pull the plastic out of the bed. It's just enough to keep the film tight.
Great. Then Gordon from Kenya, who's asking, Kenya, many farmers are in contact. They need to be trained. Can you assist? Yes, we will assist you, Gordon. We will be very happy. We have your email, so we will get in touch with you. Thank you very much. More questions. Can this plastic be installed manually?
It can be installed manually. If it is going to be installed manually, though, we do recommend it's done very early in the day or late afternoon, simply because when it is exposed to sunlight, once it's off the roll, it will start to shrink. So you need to pull a meter out, cover the edges at a time, or alternatively, there are semi-automatic or semi-manual machines which will work to cover that plastic and allow it to work to the best of its ability.
Thank you very much. More questions. And this is Eric Koskei, agronomist in Manzoni Plantations Limited, Kenya. Can it be used in any fruit orchard, especially in avocado orchards?
Look, given the long lifespans that you would be using a mulch film for in a fruit orchard, it can be used, especially in the early establishment of plants, but it's not going to be there for 5 years, 10 years. It would need to be removed from the field after a period. But yes, it certainly can. Yeah.
We will contact you and we will see what is your expectations to this participant, and then we can see if we can design something. But as you said, not so many years, as normally the film is used for orchard plantations. More questions. Will you issue certificate of participation? It wasn't in the plan, but if you need it, maybe we can issue some certification. No, I think there will be no problem. Thank you. We have another question from Marina Romanova. Thank you, Marina. Please confirm if cold zone like Canada, Norway countries are using solar shrink and for which applications?
Yes, I don't know about the northern parts of Europe, but I know that in Canada the product is being used, and it's being used for whatever ground crop they're growing there. Obviously not the broadacre. It's not being used for maize or corn or wheat. But if you're growing a row crop, if you're growing a fruit or a vegetable, the product is being used for that in those regions.
We have another question. I think they are asking again if the film can be installed manually or with a spreading machine. We already answered that. Probably
Yes.
it was doubled the question. Thank you very much. What is the temperature range within which the film perform best? We are based in Germany basically and are working with Armando Alvarez Group for a long period of time.
Okay, so the product will work in virtually any temperature. It's not affected by extreme cold or extreme heat. It's used, as I just said, in Canada, and it's used in the extremely high temperatures found in North Queensland and the Northern Territory in Australia. In actual fact, I was in America earlier this year, and I have some videos somewhere of the product in the snow being exposed to direct sunlight and still shrinking and still retaining its strength. So yes, it can be used in any condition that you would use a normal mulch film or a competitor's mulch film. Solar shrink will perform and will perform better.
Great. Another question from James Kim. He says, usually our market, which is South Korea, use 0.02 millimeters to 0.03 millimeters, 20-30 microns for mulch. Then which thickness solar shrink you recommend use in our market?
So for that market, we would look to go down to thinner than that. If you have a product that is performing at a given thickness, so if it's 0.02, so 20 microns, solar shrink at the same thickness will be significantly stronger, much stronger than you need. So we would reduce the thickness to the point where it performs better than what you're using, but you're still getting the maximum cost saving. So again, it's per market. We would customize it based on what you're using, the ground that you're on, the crop that you're growing. We could certainly customize something for you.
Mm-hmm. We have another question from Serge Boudan. Thank you very much, Serge. Is it possible to produce this film with heat?
To produce the film with heat? I don't understand.
I don't understand neither. Well, the raw material needs to be melted, so we produce with heat. I don't know, probably he's meaning to install it under the heat. I think he might mean that.
Yes, look, heat isn't the problem. Heat isn't the cause of the shrinking. In fact, it is the sunlight itself which reacts with the polymers to cause the product to shrink. So in hot environments, it can be laid. It just needs to be laid or the edges covered quickly. If the film is left loose on the ground, as I said, with a manual installation, it will shrink when exposed to sunlight.
Yeah, he's actually now making another comment. If the film is produced with thermic additives, if the film is thermic.
The film can be produced with thermic additives. It is being produced in other regions with that. But at the moment, Armando Alvarez is rolling out just looking at black films to start with. And then from that point, we'll move forward with specific requirements for customers.
Mm-hmm. We have another question from Sagi. Thank you, Sagi, for joining. He's asking, have you tried it with soil disinfection of DMDS? Robert, you know what DMDS? It's a disinfectant for soil.
Yes. So it's being used with whatever fumigants are commercially available in the USA. It's being used with those from California all the way through to Florida and throughout the country. In areas where it's not legislated to have a TIF film, we've actually found that a standard solar shrink in a slightly thicker performs much better than a standard competitor film, even without the barrier product behind it. So look, if you're using a fumigant, a solar shrink TIF will work much better. But as I said, it's not currently available in the market. That is still in development with Armando Alvarez.
And I hope very soon we will have also the TIF version of the solar shrink. And we have another comment from Aaron. Thanks for the great and informative session. I agree with Aaron. Thank you very much, Robert, for all the excellent and informative session. More questions, and I think it's one of the last ones. Why would the film shrink, and is there any sense behind shrinking?
Well, certainly there is. Having, as I said throughout the presentation, having the film shrink allows it to be applied to the bed faster. It provides a better growing environment for the crops. It retains heat and moisture in the soil, prevents damage to the crops, and promotes a higher yield, which is what every farmer is looking for, is more crop for less input. And that's what having a shrinking mulch film does. Shrinking mulch film is a tighter mulch film, is a better growing environment for your crops.
Absolutely, and especially on those days with extremely wind conditions that may harm.
Exactly right. Yes.
So, well, a lot of questions. I found it very interesting. Thank you very much for all the attendance, for the participation and active questions. Thank you very much, Robert, for the excellent presentation. I must point out I have been enjoying it very much. For all of you that participated, just want to remind you that you will receive the link in your email with the link with the recorded presentation, the contact details. And at the end of the presentation, when you close the webinar, you will have a short anonymous survey that if you answer, it will help us a lot to improve our sessions in the future. And still, we will be in contact with all of you if you have any more questions in the future. You have all our contact details. You can look for us in our website, Armando Alvarez Group, or through our Agriplastics community. You see our web pages here in the screen, and you will find the contact details also in the emails you will receive, as I said. Thank you very much for all the participation, and we are willing to serve you and keep answering more questions and see the solar shrink in all of your countries. Thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you very much, Maribel. Thanks for hosting. Enjoyed it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.